I'm delighted to be part of this. I'm delighted to be part of a talk session about ideas. And the idea that I want to talk about is something that has excited me for years. It's something that I think revolutionised the world about 2,500 years ago, continues to revolutionise and can still, providing we nurture it. Kalos kai agathos. So many people have asked me about it in the last week. What the hell does it mean? And the most original suggestion was that it was a Greek pasta. I simply explained kalos is beautiful and agathos is good. It is the beautiful and the good. And we can define the beautiful and the good however we like. I'm going to start. I was delighted that we actually had a picture of my own personal Newcastle baths, actually Merriweather baths. I regard them as mine. I regard them as my personal property. That is where I truly live in the morning. And that is where my story on kalos kai agathos starts. 5 o'clock this morning, a beautiful morning, the sunrise. Everybody's out. It's magnificent to see the whole world out there exercising. People running, people swimming, people sweating, people talking and walking. And I say to myself, why is it that women walk and talk and live a long life? And why do men run and sweat and live short lives? There's got to be a solution in there somewhere. Men should learn from that. And in that environment, you see lots of things that are beautiful and good. The sky is beautiful. The water is good. You walk along the sand, you find the most beautiful stones with the sun coming on them and the water lapping over them. You find something like that and you see the water over it and you know that that is beautiful and good. And I define that as beautiful and as good. And amidst a crowd of people exercising, you'll see an 84-year-old Chinese lady whose name is Fei. Fei does the most amazing Tai Chi, the most amazing stretch exercises. She warms up by doing the splits and can hold the splits for as long as you want to talk to her. And she's just as likely as she did this morning to say, I know you're raising money for some particular thing. And she'll dive inside her little bra, pull out a little wallet, and out of it come $5 and say, that is for the children in the Sichuan province who suffered from the earthquake. She's a woman of wisdom, a woman people love, and a woman who radiates a strong sense of community. She is the lady of balance, and that's what kalos kai agathos is about, the balance of the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the aesthetic. And that's Fei. When I go to the water, stand near the numbers to help me learn to count again. Peter arrives. Peter's 95. Peter yesterday spoke at an Armistice Day talk. I helped him write the speech. He gave a magnificent speech where he called upon my favourite Athenian orator, Pericles, and integrated that into his speech. And he wanted to talk about how that speech worked. Peter is a prisoner of war from Changi, has a wonderful story to tell of Changi, Australia, the war. Wonderfully involved man, committed to health, committed to the university, committed to Newcastle. And there, at 95, preparing to do his 2 laps of the pool. And Peter says to me, the speech went well, I'm pleased, thank you. He said, but oh God, Bernie, I wish I were 90 again. I said, why is that, Peter? And he said, because I could do 5 laps when I was 90, now I can only do 2. I said, Peter, do 2, you're way ahead of many people who are still in bed and still thinking about going to the baths. A beautiful man, a good man, and kalos kai agathos. And then if you go to the steps, those of you who know this town know that at this time of the morning The steps at Merewether are a hive of activity. There are people racing up, and you race up to the top. You look like you're going to the sky. You race down. You look like you're going to the bottom. You look like you're going out to the sea. And they go. There are 67 steps there for those who are going to do it next time. And at the bottom of the steps, gather the people who've done their exercise, their swim, their run, and they chat, and they talk, and they capture the spirit of the times. That's where the matters of the polis, the matters of the day are discussed. You can imagine how much time has been put into figs lately. Figs are very topical at the bars. Figs. Many things are discussed. The fertility of figs. How important figs are to your diet. How important it is to keep figs alive. A rallying cause. And that can quickly change to talking about what one fellow would do if he was able to get Tony Abbott's Speedos. Or what he would like to do to government in general. What he would like to do to Canberra. Work our way right through. These are people who love their exercise, love their discussion, they love their community, they love being part of that environment in what is really an open-air gymnasium, a wonderful hive of activity that's celebrating literally what it means to be human. That's what kalos, agathos is about. The balance of mind and body, the development and cultivation of the complete person. A balanced approach. Not something that says that the only thing in our world is sport or the only thing in our world is the mind. It's about into the balance. Where did this idea come to me? I can tell you. I have vivid memories of being in Rome, being in a 3rd century BC underground tomb with a wonderful man by the name of Godfrey Tanner, who was a professor of classics at this university. He was a Yoda-type character, and I regard that experience in the underground as like visiting Dagobah, except I don't think I'd figure as Luke Skywalker. And there we're looking at the inscription on a tomb, and I was trying to translate it. I couldn't translate the Latin, it was Old Latin. And Godfrey said to me, "My dear boy, you're having problems." He was one lovely, eccentric Cambridge accent. "My dear boy, you're having problems because it is archaic Latin. I think you'll find that it's a translation of the Greek ideal of kalos, agathos." I hadn't heard of it. And I said, "What is it?" And he started to give me a summary of how important it was in the late 6th century and the 5th century, and how it became an idea and an ideal that changed the world. He summed it up by saying, if you find it difficult in the Greek, take it in the Latin, because the Roman writer Juvenal, writing in the 1st century, actually translated it as mens sana in corpore sano. Healthy mind in a healthy body. It's a simple formula. It's a great formula. That's the idea. And it then shaped my life forever, as in the person who loves exercise, loves fitness, loves health, loves the baths, loves his study, loves thinking, loves reading. When I run, I write. When I swim, I think of verse. I'm thinking about speeches. I haven't even worked out how this mind and body thing works. But some of the most magnificent ideas come when you are in the midst of exercise. And if you could tape yourself or wrap it all up, you could say, I could come out of this and I could write a thesis, I could write a book. And when you're finished, the problem is, by about 10:30 in the morning, all you want to do is go to sleep. All you want to do is to sign off and say, I've had enough. However, that is it. And it's actually helped me in my 30-odd years with the university, I've been involved with the development of sport, the growth of the gymnasium. And that's never been because of this madness of sports people, which I had as a young man. As a young man, my life was a football. That's all it was. That was all that was in his head. But, you know, you grow up a little bit, you get a little bit of sense and start to see things in perspective. But that gymnasium out at the university, which we call the Forum, which literally means a meeting place, that gymnasium is part and parcel of the university. It is an integral part of the university. It is not something that exists separately. It's not something that's on the periphery. It's in the centre of my concept of a university, because it is, again, the physical and the intellectual development of the whole person. What we have to keep reminding ourselves is how we emphasise and retain our humanity through that. So I also had a charge of a college, setting up a residential college. I got a group of students with me, and we made it work around the idea of kalos kai agathos. So the idea came from Greece, as I said. I'm not going to give you an ancient history lecture, but I can say that during the period of the 6th and the 5th centuries, the concept of what constituted an ideal person changed from the best warrior to this idea of the best all-round developed person. It was a progress of political change from aristocratic government through to democracy. And it was a change in the nature of the gymnasium and the role of the gymnasium. As the gymnasium became the place not only where you physically trained, but the gymnasium became the place where you learnt the art of living, the art of being human, the art of working in government. At its height, in 5th century Athens, kalos kai agathos was literally an ideal that spread right throughout the Athenian culture. And it inspired this wonderful outpouring of spiritual and cultural development that led to the great writers of our time, the Aeschyluses and the Thucydides and the Herodotuses and Euripides, who explored what it meant to be human. It inspired the creation of the Parthenon, the temple that you see. Every time there's a picture of what's happening in Greece now, you see the Parthenon. It's a ruin. Athens is probably a bit of a ruin at the moment. But in that Parthenon is the story of the Athenians' discovery of man. Because all around, in the Parthenon frieze that was created, there's the story of Athenians celebrating what it was to be human. Man is the measure, said Protagoras, and man is the measure of what we could achieve as human beings. There's a direct link between kalos kai agathos and man as the measure. That is a great ideal, and it all started in the gym. That's what makes it so magnificent. Do you know Aristotle taught in the Lyceum, a gym? Plato taught in the academy, a gym, Plato's academy. Poor Academus happened to be a hero, great man in war, and the gym that Plato taught in just backed onto his tomb. As a result, the word academic has come into our meaning as somebody who's an academic. Oh, he's not very important, or it's academic. In fact, it is very important. It's the name of a hero, and it's the name of the gym that Plato taught. And there these people searched for meaning, they searched for time to work out what is in the nature of man, what's the nature of the universe, what is justice, what is nobility, what does it mean to be human? These were the questions that were asked in that. So, it's a wonderful, wonderful area. If you would like to enrol in ancient history, if you'd like to study classical civilization, I welcome you, because there's a lot more to be said about it. But where to from here? Well, perhaps we could take all the gyms in town and we could ask them to expand their range of offerings and to have classes in what it means to be human. Ask them to help us learn about the art of democracy, what it means to be citizen. You mean, where is it learnt? Maybe citizenship classes, but I see a wonderful, absolutely wonderful resource of people in our gymnasia who are there busting to do something culturally, creatively, intellectually, to develop as citizens who want to make some kind of contribution. Kalos, agathos can inspire them on that central drive of what it means to be human. We can increase the number, we can make it as an ideal. How many times do you go to a speech day and you see the ducks, the first in the class, walk across the stage, a small clap? You see the musicians bringing magnificent music, playing something that moves the soul. But it's fill-in music. It's the lead-up to the Sports Person of the Year. And then there's a standing ovation and a clap. Well, I love sport, and I love the Sports Person of the Year. But why can't we have all those three things working together? Why can't we develop all those together? Why can't we be a society? Why can't we be a community that actually doesn't have this debate about whether we should have expenses for sport, but nothing for our art galleries and nothing for our museums? We want to actually put all of those things on the map. So I say, Mr. Tinkler, why don't you buy the post office? And let's turn the post office into a Parthenon. And that'll be a place where we celebrate in our community not only our sporting achievements, the Knights, the Jets, and the under-13s for West Wallsend, but also our artists, our poets, our musicians that all perform in their different parts around this town. How can we bring them together to say, we, in this magnificent town of Newcastle, we are a leader, and we can be a leader to the world. If Pericles could do it in his funeral oration and say to the people of Athens, we are the leaders, people look to us. Why can't the people of Australia look to Newcastle and see just exactly what we have to show? So take the word kalos kai agathos, take the stone, nurture it, water it. I bring these stones home now and I tell the stories to my grandchildren. And they water them. They nourish them. They keep them good. They keep them beautiful. Kalos kai agathos is the beautiful and the good. Hang on to the words, hang on to the idea, and enjoy the day. Thank you.